First up, though, I want to hear from the man joining me in the studio. I say the man, he's actually come as a Christmas tree today. Philip Ingram, MBE, former senior military intelligence officer, and, as I say, Christmas tree. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Well, this is our last time together before Christmas, and,
so you
and again my last.
So I
thought, well, you didn't realise I've been hiding on the 14th floor in the canteen behind the reindeer all week.
I was going to say,
and nobody's noticed me.
Can I just say, my office does very big style Christmas decoration. I mean, my home looks like a Santa's grotto. I can't tell you. My husband, he sort of comes in, and I finish decoration. He goes, "Oh God, not again." If there is a space to put a twinkly light, I've put a twinkly light on it. For those who are mistakenly listening on the radio, not watching us on YouTube or your connected device,
get a picture.
We'll put a picture out. But Philip is wearing. Where do you buy a jacket that is a Christmas tree?
Don't ask. You can get anything online.
Okay. Says the former senior military intelligence officer.
Luckily, I got paid for having to wear it rather than have to pay for it. No,
I'm intrigued. No, you're going to have to explain that story now.
No. It's not. No, I found it cheap online and thought that is so disgusting. I have to get it.
Listen. I mean, where do you think I get all my clothes other than cheap and online? Hello. Right, Philip. Let's talk about misogyny. Let's talk about violence against women and girls. This is a long-awaited strategy. My God, because Jess Phillips, the safeguarding minister, never does anything quickly. We've had, I think, three strategies since 2010, so under the Tory government, coalition government as well, to tackle violence against women and girls, and one refresh, apparently, as well. Not entirely sure it's made any difference. Apparently, over 1 million incidents were reported in the last year. We've got full figures for 22-23 of violence against women and girls. Bearing in mind, I think the vast majority are never actually reported to police. They say it's 20% of all police recorded crime. It must be pointed out, virtually all violent crime is committed by men and boys, young men largely. And interestingly, though, small point worth making, the vast majority of victims are men.
Yes. Not
women. That's a small point I think worth making. We're going to look at the stats. Men are far more at risk of violence from men than women are. However, violence against women largely often happens in domestic scenarios where women clearly weaker physically, and sometimes in coercive relationships and the like, and unable to leave, they feel safely, and often they know safely. But I think tackling schoolboys, the idea about this is, we're told by teachers there's this rising rate of misogyny where these young lads are going online, they're seeing not only horrific pornography involving the most horrific, normalised now, utterly normalised violence against women, strangulation, slapping, spitting, you name it. Sex that, I'm sorry, would not be remotely normal or acceptable or fun for the average woman. Well, well documented, okay? They're also looking at the likes of Andrew Tate, but there are many more like him who are going, hey, look at me, I'm a really sad, bald, inadequate man from Luton who has somehow put on the muscle, become an MMA fighter or whatever he was, and made a load of money. I've got my Lamborghini, I've got all these women, I've got all the flash kit. Don't you want to be me? And telling men, nothing to be ashamed of, you're in charge, your woman is your bitch, and you can do what you want. Now, I've got no problem with him bigging himself up. I've got no problem with his Lamborghinis, with his message to men about, like, you can be all you can be. There's actually something in there. Of course, it has to be based on you are powerful at the expense of the women in your life who are there to be used and, yes, abused. He has not been convicted of any crimes yet involving abuse of women, but does anyone seriously think he has not raped, sexually assaulted, abused, and convinced women to be used as online, for online porn? No, of course we don't. Feel free to sue me, Andrew Tate. I'm pretty sure I'm bagged to rights on that one. But is that the problem? Is that what's going on? That the boys are seeing this stuff and then they are turning into young little tearaways who are a danger to, frankly, our daughters?
I think the government is oversimplifying it in many cases, and I think society has got a real case to answer here, because we've got Andrew Tate at one end of the spectrum, then very close to Andrew Tate at that end of the spectrum you've got everyone who's supporting all of these objectifying television programmes like Love Island and all the rest. So you think, they're brilliant, but it's all about objectifying. It's all about power play between men and women.
But it objectifies the boys as well.
Oh, of course it objectifies the boys, but what it does is it creates a false narrative around what relationships are and everything else. And then you get right at the other end of the spectrum, you get where you get religious misogyny that comes in, where you get you Muslims who will believe that their wives or the female in their families have to wear the hijab or the burqa or something else and insist that that happens. And then how do you translate that into a course where you're going to get teachers from all communities, and some of them are going to be young teachers, 22, 23, 24, who won't have seen the extreme pornography, or hopefully haven't.
I don't know how you could miss it.
Who don't sit and watch Andrew Tate or anything else. But how do you then give them that life experience to then...
Well, I think the idea is they're going to have specialist classes, being taught. But again, I'm very worried about the people doing a lot of specialist classes in schools, because a lot of them, it's like the trans nonsense being pushed by organisations, funded by Stonewall and Mermaids and the like.
And a lot of people do that tend to be of a political persuasion and on a crusade.
They're not there to help. I mean, I remember going into my daughter's school a few years ago, where they asked parents to come in and talk to us about what they want for the personal and sex education, the PSHE or whatever it's called this week, and the two things I raised was stop telling kids they're born in the wrong body. They're not, full stop, end of, nothing to discuss. Don't affirm, kids who think they're trans, no such thing as a trans kid. But also, crucially, I said, are you telling girls, that being strangled or hit during sex is not normal or acceptable? And they go, well, we don't, they actually said, and again, this was a sensible school, we don't like to use terms like normal. I mean, well, no, you should.
Yes,
we absolutely need to use it.
Need to use it.
But here's the thing. The one thing I've learned over the years is that the women who are, 2 women a week die from domestic abuse. That's the most extreme form, because we're definitely seeing, we've seen other issues as well. But it does seem to me that, virtually every single case I've ever covered as a news journalist has involved a woman who has repeatedly gone to the police, even gone to the courts, gone for help, desperately sought help, got a violent partner, and it's usually when she leaves that she's most at risk. People ask, why won't women leave? They don't leave because the point of leaving is your most perilous time. And they were known to the authorities, and nothing was done. So these men commit the same thing again and again and again. Now, I've got no issue. Look, if someone messed around with me like that, or with my child, I'll put this on record right now.
You have a new patio.
It would be dealt with. If the authorities wouldn't do it, it would be dealt with. Put it that way. And I think a lot of parents would feel the same way. Yes. Woe betide. You've messed with the wrong family would be my suggestion, mafia style at that point. But a lot of parents, and I've spoken to a lot of parents, there's no help. So you shouldn't be spending that time helping the people who we know already are at risk.
Yes.
And getting these men, and don't make the women move, get those men behind bars. They are a danger. If you threaten to kill someone repeatedly, you need to be in prison. But the other crucial thing is, this government is happily, and Jess Phillips, the Safeguarding Minister, is classic among these, happily importing tens of thousands, both illegal and legal migrants from countries where misogyny is the norm, where violence against women and girls is completely norm, where women who get raped are then punished for having had sex outside marriage, sometimes forced to marry their rapist to protect the honour of their family. That's how sick some of these societies are. And they're importing them in, and they're saying to us, all cultures are equal and it's all fine. And if you talk about this problem, grooming gang scandal, or violence on our streets, or migrant rapists living in asylum hotels, then you're a racist and a bad person. But that's the reality.
And at the same time, your schools aren't stopping kids coming in dressed up to the nth degree, not wearing school skirts but wearing belts, not doing their school uniforms up properly. But
they're also not stopping
lots of makeup.
The underskirting.
Correct, and not stop. And therefore, I think the schools need to get back to basics, and children should be allowed to be children. And they should...
No phones in school. If your school allows the kids to have their phones, even with them in the classroom,
no
or even
phones, no makeup, no excessive jewellery. Uniform should be uniform.
We all survived it, didn't we?
Well, exactly, and it allows children to get away from that pressure coming younger and younger and younger and younger.
The sexualisation.
And then again, the media needs to wake up, and society needs to say, a lot of these programmes that are all about objectifying people. It may be men and women say, it's doing it equally. It's not. Kids are watching it beyond the threshold time and it's helping
I have to
formulate
say, I have
their
a few
brain.
times said to girls in the street, put some clothes back on.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously,
Exactly.
you're in the street. You're in the street. So for the love of God. Oh, well, you're victim blaming then. No,
No,
I'm just
it's
saying,
not.
what message do you think you're sending out there? You're literally in a bra and pants on the street. You're not at a beach bar.
Yeah.
You haven't just
it's,
got sand on your feet.
And this is a wider society issue that needs to be dealt with. Don't just focus it on anti-misogynist courses.
But again, this whole idea that the boys are the problem. Again, the awful thing is the normalisation in terms of a lot of relationships, of abusive relationships, controlling relationships. There was a poll a few years ago where I think the average 15 or 16-year-old girl, something like 40% of them thought that, yes, if their boyfriend thought that they were flirting with another boy, it was absolutely acceptable for him to slap her. I mean,
what?
Yeah. This stuff is being normalised. They're seeing this in sort of, sort of, let's face it, a lot of, the sort of lots of, pop culture, rap culture it's honestly.
And where are the parents in all of this? Why are the parents not reading? But then the trouble is the parents have grown up with all of this, and the parents are the ones that are sitting there watching the objectifying programmes on telly who are saying, "Oh no, get your make here."
I think a lot of mums are part of the problem. They're putting their girls in clothes which is just utterly inappropriate for the age range.
Yeah.
I am that person in department stores saying, "I want to see the manager. Why is this on sale for an 8-year-old?"
Yes.
I am that parent. I'm afraid I am. I'm a busybody, but genuinely, I think well, the parents buy it. Well, they shouldn't be allowed to.
Correct.
End of. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this, because I do think the demonisation of boys. I think boys have been turning to the likes of Andrew Tate and then being drilled with this horrible. It is misogyny, this hatred of women, and this women as objects and beneath men to be used. They're being drilled with that because they're seeking out something, because they're being told right now. You grow up now as a young man, and I say that someone's got a daughter, and all of my friends who've got daughters and sons, we always talk about, actually, we're more worried about the boys than the girls. The girls are being told, you can have it all, you can have everything. Now, that's a bit of a lie as well, but they're being empowered. They're being told, yeah, you're the greatest, you're wonderful. I mean, frankly, too much. And the boys are being told, you're nothing, you're rubbish, you're no use to anybody. You're a bad person. You're just, all you are is a walking rapist. You got no worth. You're not as good. You're inadequate. You're someone to mock. I tell you what, though, you know what? When you look at the who it was who tackled that gunman at Bondi Beach, yeah? Who was it? Who was it? It was a man in the Heaton Park synagogue. Who was it who blocked the doors, to keep everyone else safe? It was two men who ended up being shot. That's why. I mean, this is the thing. When you actually look at, when we want someone to come and protect us on the streets, it's nearly always a man. When the people are going to have to go to war, it's going to be a man. The people who are dying at work, more likely to die at work because they do all the dangerous jobs, it's men. I'm really sorry, but we need to stop demonising men and boys and telling them they're worthless pieces of nothing on the bottom of our shoe, and then they wouldn't have to turn to people like someone who is genuinely a worthless piece of nothing under my shoe, like Andrew Tate. And
one of the biggest killers of men in their 20s is suicide as well, and a lot of that is the pressure that's been put on them, and people feel inadequate and not up to it, and everything else. So society's to blame for that. We've got a whole society issue here that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's turn to another topic, because I want to hear your thoughts on all of that. 0344 499 1000, whether you're a man or a woman. But also let's talk about this government plan to rejoin the student exchange scheme, the Erasmus scheme, which is just for the Jacinders of North London. I mean, I'll know loads of people whose parents go, oh, how wonderful, this is great, this is wonderful. We're going to be able to go and send our kids on this year abroad. Thing is, the fees in the EU, most of those universities have fees of like about a couple £100 a year, not £9,500 a year like we're paying. So when students from the EU are coming over here, and by the way, way more of them will come here than will go to Europe, because barely anyone does foreign languages in this country, can speak another language to that level. They could do a study for a year abroad, whereas pretty much everybody who's going to be at university in Europe will speak pretty good to not fluent English. It's the second language of the world. More of them, as happened before we left the EU, and certainly more now with youth unemployment sky high, are going to be coming here. And we're going to be paying for the privilege, and apparently that cost isn't going to be a couple of $100 million, which is too much anyway. Could be up to $8 billion over a few years. That's insane.
It's completely insane. And we look at the statistics, and they're very telling. 2020, Erasmus, we sent 9,900 students out into the EU. We had 16,100 in, so about 35,000. The Tories replaced it with a touring scheme, which wasn't just EU-based, it was globally based, and about 35,000 people going out. In 2021, there was £100 million allocated to it. 24, 110 million, and the last year it was held 78 million. We're now talking
Billion,
8 billion for just 35,000. It's back to 35,000. Where is this coming from?
But the benefit goes to the students from the EU more. But again, they're saying it's open to everybody. It's like, oh yeah, we're saying yes to all these kids on council estates.
At the same time, we're ripping our farmers off for 250 million. And saying we can't afford them because of everything else.
And you know why they're doing it? They're doing it because since 2016, from the day after that referendum in June 2016, Keir Starmer's main aim in life was making sure to stop us leaving the EU in the first place. That he wanted a second. He was the one who was the architect of that second referendum plan in 2019. Thank God they weren't elected. Jeremy Corbyn would have been Prime Minister. Imagine that. Although actually him a Eurosceptic, but didn't actually do anything to try and push that case. And they failed at that, and they've said all the right things at the last election, didn't they? Oh no, we wouldn't rejoin the EU. We wouldn't, we wouldn't join the customs union, the single market. Wink, wink. They're going to take us in by the back door, aren't they? We're going to join every little thing. We're going to be paying a fortune for every little thing with no say, but we're going to be, got no power over anything, but we're going to be at the table, and then they're going to say, at this point, we may as well be back in.
Yeah. Well, they've also said they'll do no U-turns, and they'll clean up politics, and
they wouldn't raise taxes.
So we can't trust a single thing that the government said before it came in, because it was quite clear now. And if anyone doesn't realise this, they said anything that they thought someone wanted to hear, so they'd get their vote.
Yeah.
Now that they've got their vote, they haven't got a plan, so they're making everything up, and that's why they're doing so many U-turns. Because when they make something up, they suddenly realise, oh, that doesn't work. Let's reverse it again.
But also, they have no respect for a democratic vote, Brexit vote, the biggest democratic vote for anything in British history. They think, again, they still think we're all a bit stupid. Well, we're all a bit thick and racist, aren't we? And we didn't know what we were voting for. I knew exactly what I was voting for, and I'm pretty sure I got a better degree than you, Keir Starmer.
But they think that everyone who's voted for Labour is completely stupid and will automatically believe anything they say without questioning it. And I think they're
total disdain. That's it. I think the Tories have had quite a lot of disdain for British voters. I mean, again, they promised lots of things as a result of Brexit, delivered not just not delivering them, but delivering the opposite of them.
And they cocked up, and that could be measured.
But this, yes, exactly. But this is the thing. It is so deceitful. If they think that there's no way we're going back into the EU proper without actually a referendum. Once people know what the deal is to go back in, once there's a proper campaign, and by the way, the EU will charge us a fortune. There'll be no discount like Margaret Thatcher managed to get that rebate. Sorry, there's no way in the world that British people will ever vote to get back in. I see poll after poll after poll saying, oh, people regret voting for Brexit. Genuinely, I mean this absolutely seriously. I have never met a single person who voted for Brexit who regrets their vote. Every single thing that has happened from June 2016 onwards has absolutely convinced me and every Brexiteer I know that it was the right thing to have done.
And the information campaign that's trying to say everything is better in the EU is not being countered by the very fact that the cost of living in the UK, when it comes to the cost of shopping, when it comes to the cost of fuel, when it comes to the cost of everything else, is an awful lot less than in the EU across the board in different EU countries.
Food's much more expensive here.
No, it's not. You get right. Here's a perfect example. You get a little salad box thing in the Republic of Ireland that costs you €10. Over here, it costs you £3.50.
Oh, OK. I don't know where you're getting it, £3.50 here, but there we are. Let's also talk one final topic before we get to our calls. Police are finally arresting protesters who chant "globalise the Intifada." We had an extraordinary statement from it was convoluted. I was trying to read it, while with the break, going, what has Met Police, the Great Manchester Police Chiefs, actually say? It was like, oh, here it is. Basically, the nuance of what does "globalise the Intifada" mean? The protests go, oh, it just means, it's the struggle, just worldwide struggle for Palestinians. No, it doesn't. Globalised Intifada means the Intifada is very clearly the mass slaughter of Jews. Yeah. Globalising it means do it around the world. So that's what we've had on Bondi Beach. This is what it means. And it is interesting, finally we've seen some people actually arrested for calling for Intifada.
I think police chiefs should resign over this very fact. We have been saying, and I have been saying the whole way through, the people that are chanting this are going to stimulate terrorist activity in this country or other parts of the world, but because they're normalising a call to arms for people. And now the police are suddenly saying, oh, well, because of what happened in Australia, the horses bolted, let's close that stable door. Well, I'm sorry, they've got intelligence professionals that are advising them that will have been saying the same as me.
I mean, the thing is, a lot of the people on those protests, let's be honest,
don't know what they're talking about.
Well, they don't. They don't know where. Well, again, it's interesting. If you put Palestine into Google Maps, it takes you straight to basically Israel, Gaza, West Bank. It's like the whole, but like the whole area. You know, it's like, I mean, hello, that's not Palestine, mate. Doesn't actually exist. By the way, doesn't actually exist. So Google, sort yourselves out. But I mean, I think a lot of those people on those marches, they couldn't place Israel on a map.
No, they couldn't.
They certainly know where Gaza is. They know nothing of the West Bank.
Well,
they know absolutely nothing. I can tell from the people who are messaging me constantly. They are literally the most ignorant. I don't mean like we differ on our views on things. They actually state things that are provably categorically untrue.
Yeah.
They know nothing. They're just reading a load of nonsense online. And the thing is, you know, so do they know what globalised intifada means? No, but I'm wearing my keffiyeh, so I'm thinking I'm big I am, and I'm virtue signalling, and I'm being cool with the latest big woke cause. But the people who are behind these marches and the people who organise these things, they absolutely know what they're doing.
Of course.
And we know they know what they're doing because a lot of them have got links with Hamas.
Yes, and they're being manipulated, not just through Hamas, but through the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, the Quds Force, and all the rest of it. So it's been and then there's links to the Russians and all the rest of it. It's very difficult. But then people start quoting history, and they try and suggest that Palestine is, you know, historically belongs to the Palestinians, and then you point out that the Muslim faith only came thousands of years after the Jewish faith, and it was the land of Judea long beforehand. They go, oh, but that bit of history doesn't count.
I visited Jerusalem earlier this year. I mean, you only have to go visit Jerusalem. It's like, seriously, how bizarrely did this particular building, which was a space of worship for Jews, how come this is underneath the place? I mean,
they just haven't got a clue.
It's basic historical knowledge.
But reality doesn't count whenever you've got something fixed in your brain, and you will not.
Plus, they're just idiots. I mean, they're not only useful idiots for Islamofascism, they're literally just idiots. I was delighted to see that young chap at Oxford University who had said, you know, who put the Zionists in the ground. He means me as well. I'm a Zionist. I believe in the state of Israel's right to existence. So he wanted to put me and a lot of our audience and, you know, many people in this country in the ground. And he has actually been arrested. He's entitled to a fair trial, of course, absolutely. Yep. But interesting to see that people are.
He's been arrested now.
Well, there is something. The wheels are in motion. There are consequences. Well, words have consequences. We keep being told by the woke. Yeah. Anyway, it's coming.